Hey looters, today I want to talk about a spell that I've got some beef with. I just have some gripes about Moonbeam and the way players use it today on Flutes Loot. I have an article to accompany this video, so if you want to read instead of listen, or maybe do both, follow the link in the description. There you'll find the Flutes Loot articles by me and Opal and other fantastic writers. Moonbeam is a second level spell that druids can cast, though there are a few subclasses that have gained it, like the Ancients and Watchers Paladins and the Twilight Cleric. My experience has primarily been with druids, so just assume I'm talking about druids specifically in this video. So why is Moonbeam my pet peeve? Why does it tilt me? The spell in and of itself is fine. It's just that over 8 years of playing, I find that this is one of the spells that is the most poorly utilized, in that I think players think it's cool, and at face value they like what it says. But in practice, it doesn't match up to their expectations, I suppose. So I'm hoping to show you players today that Moonbeam is often kind of shooting yourself in the foot, and maybe you don't realize it because it's just like a cool concept of a spell. So to sum up what Moonbeam does, it creates a pillar of dim light, let's call it Moonlight, and it deals 2d10 radiant damage to those who start their turn in the beam or enter it. I often see players trying to roll damage immediately for it. Technically, you are supposed to wait until a creature's turn begins and roll for them specifically. There's a Constitution saving throw to take half damage. Monsters will likely fail the saving throw 50 to 60% of the time. If you ever play Pokemon, that's pretty bad odds. We're using a Constitution saving throw, and about half the time, maybe a little less than half the time, you're actually going to do half damage. So 2d10 is an average of 11 damage, and if you have that, that's 5 damage for a second level spell slot, and that's assuming they are in the Moonbeam on their turn. It's a small area of effect too. It's only a 5-foot radius circle. So basically 4 squares on a grid are covered by Moonbeam. Yes, the area does include a 40-foot high cylinder, but I find that is rarely relevant. The spell requires your concentration. It can last up to a minute. You can cast it from 120 feet away, which is nice, and you can use your action on your turn to move it again up to 60 feet. That 60-foot movement as an action is important, and we'll go over that a little bit. It's noteworthy that it does upcast for 1d10 per level, and persistent effects are often better to upcast, but I don't really recommend it with this spell. Another point of confusion that often needs to be explained is the shape changer part. If you're using it on a shape changer, if there's a shape changer in the Moonbeam, they have disadvantage on the saving throw. This technically does not refer to like a druid who is in wild shape or a wizard in polymorph, because they are not creature type shape changer. That refers to, in the monster manual, creatures like lycanthropes, like werewolves, who say they are humanoids, parentheses, shape changers. It is nice against those sorts of creatures if you need to reveal them or want to take them out of their more powerful forms and revert them back to their humanoid form, because Moonbeam will revert them if they fail the saving throw back to their original form. So a werewolf, it's all transformed and ready to fight, and then you just turn it back into a dude, and it's feeling sad. So how does Moonbeam usually get used? Usually I just see a druid drop it on an enemy who is just standing in the middle of a room or an open field where they are free to move out of the beam on their turn. Like I said, this is a persistent effect, so you want it to do damage over time, and ideally you don't want it to keep taking up your action economy. If they keep moving out of the Moonbeam, you need to move the beam with your action to wherever they went if you want to get the most value out of Moonbeam. You're probably dealing 11 damage on average if you're just going after one creature, and it might be halved to 5 per round. So DPR of 5 or 11 per round is not great. It's nice against creatures like vampires who have a particular weakness against radiance. It stops their regeneration, but otherwise it's not useful. At least radiant damage is not commonly resisted, so it's a solid damage type. Okay, so here we have a druid who is facing down a wolf pack. We've got 4 dire wolves here. So what is the druid gonna do? Let's say it's a druid of the moon. So this druid, he can wild shape as a bonus action. He can cast a spell or run or do something else. In my experience, pretty much every druid I've played with is going to cast Moonbeam here. Some druids will cast Spike Growth so that the wolves will have to damage themselves to get to the druid. That's pretty smart. Let's say this wolf is about 60 feet away. Drops a Moonbeam on that wolf. Now, what happens on the wolf's turn? It makes a con save, and it might take 11 radiant damage. A dire wolf has 37 hit points. That's not even a third of the way dead. And the wolf moves out towards the druid, perhaps dashes to get right up to him, and then all of his buddies do the same. You know, they all rush forward. You get the idea. But another scenario So let's say a human is attacking you. There's this bandit here. You drop a moonbeam on them. If they start to run away and that's the only threat you have, then you can move your moonbeam up to 60 feet as an action, put it on them again, wild shape into a bird and fly over them, and then you just follow them in your bird shape, constantly moonbeaming them while you drone strike them into oblivion. So that's one way to do it, but it only works if they have a 30 speed or less, because if they dash, they're going to move 60 feet, and you can move the moonbeam 60 feet. But on a direwolf, its speed is 50, so if it dashes, it's getting far out of the range that you can move your moonbeam, and you're going to end up wasting it. So this is one possible use for moonbeam, is if you are trying to take out enemies who you suspect have a base 30 movement speed. You can fly above them, drop moonbeam, and just follow them through the woods as you moonbeam them into oblivion. An alternative for this would be if your druid has a mount with a high speed so that you can stay out of the reach of enemies as your mount dashes around, and you use your action to moonbeam the enemies as they pursue you. Again, you want this to mostly be focused around enemies like this bandit here, who can't move as fast as a direwolf, because moonbeam can't be moved more than 60 feet in a round. If you're a fighter multi-class, can you use action surge to move the moonbeam twice? I guess so, but I wouldn't use it on that. So when is moonbeam really best? When does it shine, pun intended? Choke points. Narrow passages where you can cause creatures to pile up or force them to move through the moonbeam. In other words, instead of them trying to move out of the moonbeam and you're chasing them with moonbeam, you make them come to moonbeam. So in a choke point, you just plant the moonbeam in one spot, and any creature who wants to go toe-to-toe with your party's barbarian up front is going to have to stand in the moonbeam and take damage. The moonbeam is dim light, so they won't be able to perceive things very well if anyone's trying to hide. That's not as big a deal, but that technically is part of it. But then the question comes up of, are there better spells you could cast to guard a choke point? Do you want to heal your barbarian at the choke point with Healing Spirit? Is there some kind of ogre coming at you with metal armor that you could cast Heat Metal, making it have disadvantage on attacks while dealing damage over time? Do you want to cast Entangle to not use your concentration and just stop enemies who are out there and maybe combo with someone else or yourself with Spike Growth? Spike Growth will punish anyone trying to move over that terrain for each square that they move over it. But if they want to try to use the rules of moving through their allies to keep attacking your barbarian in the choke point and then moving back, Spike Growth will punish them more than a moonbeam will. If there's many ranged attackers or spellcasters, Fog Cloud would be superior, because if you create a heavily obscured area, you effectively create an obstruction so that they can't see through the choke point to where you are because there's too much fog. Many spells require line of sight for them to target you. Ranged attacks will have disadvantage, plus you might have cover from a doorway. Fog Cloud is really good. There's also Flaming Sphere, which does a similar effect to Moonbeam, though it's with fire damage, and it's only 2d6 instead of 2d10, but it is a dex save, and it only uses your bonus action to move it, so it's kind of like so you have more freedom to use it, but it's potentially less effective, unless you're trying to start things on fire or whatever. And then there's also Dust Devil, because Dust Devil can create an obscured area if it's kicking up dirt, like a fog cloud, and it can also toss people around like a thunder wave, and it can damage people like a moonbeam. So it could be the best of a bunch of spells to use Dust Devil, and it, again, only costs a bonus action to move it, kind of like Flaming Sphere. So I hope you're seeing that Moonbeam is often not the best choice for your action economy and your damage per round, or even your teamwork. So basically, Moonbeam confuses new players with its rules, and even more experienced players who haven't been paying attention. It's not ideal to use compared to other spells that a druid gets in the situations where Moonbeam is meant to shine. But it is cool, and it's good against shape changers, and it has radiant damage. It's good. Like I said, the spell in and of itself, not bad, but does it pale in comparison to a few other spells? I think so, especially because those spells might be more versatile in the situations where they can be useful. So if you use Moonbeam, you cast it. I'm not trying to put you down or anything. If you enjoy it, that's what the game's about. But if you are trying to do the most damage or be the most effective in combat, like I tend to try to be, Moonbeam is typically just not the play, and I hope that you'll consider other options. Alright, so that's all I have to say about that. Has Moonbeam ever bothered you? I got some comments on my article about this of some people who agreed with me, and so rally around me if you have similar beef with Moonbeam, if it disappointed you in any way. If you made it this far into the video and you don't have anything to say in the comments, try giving a little shout out to Dota 2, a game that I enjoy, and say Luna loves Moonbeam, and call it good there. I'll see you in the next video. Hope you have a good adventure this weekend. Bye.